Well, it's a beautiful day outside. The virus has got the government shut down. In fact, it's got the entire country shut down. And we've been doing a lot of work on the Lockheed. And I think today we are going to take her for a spin. We're going to go up and do some single engine work. I've been kind of curious about how well the airplane flies on one engine. Um, the other thing is this airplane actually doesn't have a rudder trim on it. It's got a bungee, and it doesn't seem to really work that well. So I want to see how much yaw we get on this thing when we shut an engine down, and simulate some takeoff stuff. So we're gonna go play around and burn some gas and see what we can get figured out in it. And it's an absolutely beautiful day, so it should be fun. Okay. So what we're gonna do, I love how the iPad just wakes up in the wrong damn mode and won't straighten itself out. We are going to take off. We're going to eventually be going down to Thomaston to get some gas, but on the way we are going to shut some engines down, practice a little bit of slow flight, and just see how this thing performs when one of the engines goes out. So normally in an airplane like this, you're going to have something to trim the rudder with when you lose an engine, so that the airplane can help you fly. If you watch the video where I had to shut the engine down in the Commander, you'll notice I was reaching up here quite a bit, and that's what I was doing. I was trimming the rudder to get it to fly straight, so that I didn't have to sit and hold the rudder pedal, because some of the airplanes are so hard to hold the rudder that you just can't do it, and you'll end up having a problem, you know, before you get the thing on the ground. This airplane doesn't have a rudder trim. It has a rudder bungee, or rudgy. The problem is it's 1936 technology, and I don't know exactly how that thing works. It doesn't seem to do anything. I can crank that thing full left and right, and I can't tell that it's doing anything at all. It's supposed to be an assist to help me with holding the rudder pedal in either of the two directions, but it doesn't really seem to work very well. So, but the one thing on this airplane and one of the reasons that I want to do this is the rudders on this airplane are actually outside of both engines. So this thing's got about a 22 or 23 foot rudder, or the horizontal, and so the rudders on both sides of where the engines are outside of the props. And so it may not be necessary to have a whole lot of rudder in the thing to keep it straight. So we'll find out here in just a minute when we get out here and give this thing a shot. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to switch over to our front tanks, because they happen to be the ones that have the most gas. We're down to about a quarter of a tank in our rear, on the rear side, and I don't like taking off with that little bit. And the other one. $1,700 RPM. Oil and fuel pressures are looking perfect. Left mag is good. Right mag is good. Mechanical feather is working. Electrical is working. And we go back to make sure that shutter valve switches back over to the mechanical side. Alright, oil is good, so we'll go ahead and close this window up. And 7 Lakes traffic. Lockheed is departing runway 18, 7 Lakes. Alright, fuel pumps are on, mixtures and props are full. Got control. Tail wheel to go. Tail wheel is locked. Fuel and oil are good. Fuel and oil are good. Airspeed's allowed. brakes, yeah. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to climb up to about 3,000 feet. Probably just going to hang around this airport for this little test. I adjusted the trim tabs a little bit because the thing's been flying a little cattywampus, and I noticed that the trim tabs on the rudder were actually what I think were causing it to fly like it was, and the aileron was as well. So I straightened the two trim tabs out on the rudder and bent the aileron down just a little bit so it doesn't have quite as much aileron. It seems to have made a huge difference here. Alright, so we're going to pull this thing back here. Pull it back to 3,000 or about 1,900 RPM, and we're about 26, 27. I'll put it on about 27 inches. We're leaving it full rich because there's no point going back and forth on that right now. I may lean it a little bit because it actually running a little rich there. We'll get it all trimmed up here. Alright, so the first thing that I want to do before I shut the engine down completely, the first thing that I want to do is I want to simulate an engine out. And to do that, when you're flying the airplane like on takeoff, that's the most critical time in a twin engine airplane that you could possibly lose an engine. And so what you want to do when you lose an engine on takeoff, you've got to get everything cleaned up as quick as you can. But it's kind of important to know how the airplane's going to fly in that situation. Is it going to get a lot of yaw and you're going to be fighting to keep it in the air? Or is it going to fly normal and you've got a few seconds to think about it? The other thing is this thing, so we have the prop governors up here that actually allow you to pitch the prop in cruise and takeoff and landings.
Okay, copy that.
But it won't feather the prop. And so feathering the prop is when the prop turns exactly into the wind so it quits turning. These handles won't do that. They won't feather that prop enough to actually make it quit windmilling. So in here we've got electronic prop feathering motors that actually pump oil in and feather the prop for you. And so we want to kind of see how long it takes for that to do its job as well, because from the time you push that, you've got to have the electronics and everything power that thing up and push the prop into a feather. So all of this stuff is kind of important to know what's going to happen when we do this. So we're going to turn here, kind of head back toward the airport just a little bit. But there's not a whole lot of concern doing this other than to start the engine, and you'll have to land on one engine, but even that's not a terrible problem. So alright, so what I'm going to do first is we're going to test the right engine. So I'm going to pull the right engine back to about 10 inches, 12 inches or so. And so at this point you can kind of see a couple things. One, you can see
how much aileron I've had to turn into the good engine. And then on the floor, I'm having to push on my left rudder pedal to keep the airplane going straight, because what I want the airplane to go straight, and I want to hold altitude. And so I haven't touched my left manifold, so if I was having problems holding altitude, or my speed started dying off too much, then I would add a little bit of manifold on the left engine. At the moment, it's not really having a hard time holding heading or anything else. My airspeed's about 130 miles an hour, so we really don't have a whole lot of issue here. So I can add just a little bit more manifold on my left engine to kind of keep it going. But overall, the airplane is flying, fairly good. Now at this point, I want to go ahead and we're going to shut that right engine down. So what we're going to do is, if we were to have this problem on takeoff, we would pull the manifold back, we'd pull our prop back, but the prop is going to keep running. So we want to feather that prop over there. And you should notice the prop actually stopped turning. There's the prop quit turning, and now the airplane is not quite so hard to control, because all that yaw that we had out there is actually gone. Now, I will tell you that there is a good bit of pressure on the rudder, so I can kind of compensate for that by turning into the good engine. But as you can see, I'm having to turn quite a bit. So if I wanted to maintain heading here and fly straight toward what's in front of me and hold my altitude, I'm going to have to add a little bit more. So I'm about 30 inches on my manifold. So the one thing that I can tell you is there's actually a good bit of strength that you're going to need to hold this rudder. So it's more of an effort than I thought it would be. So at this point, what I want to do is I'm going to push this button again, and what it's going to do, I'm going to put the fuel back on. I'm going to push the feather button again. And it should get the engine running again here. Alright, so got her running again. So we'll let her warm. Well, she hadn't cooled off too bad, but we'll let her warm up just a little bit before we push everything back over there. So the one thing about what we just did is it really takes a lot of rudder to hold the thing straight. So my left leg is pretty tired dealing with that. I'll go ahead and push her up a little bit and let her start warming back up. So my thought about the rudders being outside and helping out is not really true, because it would if you didn't have that bungee over there, which again, that bungee, so this bungee, to go to the left, I'm supposed to be able to turn this, and it should push on the left rudder to help me hold it. Well, I guess it does actually. It's working that way. Well, it seems to be. We'll try it. We're going to shut the left engine down here in a second after we get the right one going again. And then we'll give it a shot and see how it does. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and push this right engine up here. Get everything trimmed back up. Get that right engine tweaked out and running good for us. Make sure everything is happening on it like it's supposed to. And then we're gonna turn back around and shut our left engine down. And then we'll try to use the bungee on this one. The funny thing about the bungee is flying straight and level, you would think if it was doing something, when I turn it, it would actually cause the airplane to yaw, but it really doesn't do that. So, all right, so at this point, we're about 4,000 feet, and we're going to shut our left engine down. So what we're gonna do again is I'm gonna pull this back to about 12 inches or so and simulate it. Now this is the critical engine, and by critical engine, what happens is because of the rotation of the props, the airplane wants to roll over to the right more than it wants to roll to the left more than it wants to roll to the right. And so when you lose an engine and you lose that left engine, it is extremely critical that you keep the airplane speed up and don't let it get too slow, because it is naturally going to want to go that way. And so I'm pushing on the right rudder right now, trying to keep it straight, and again, it's taking a lot of effort. So I'm going to roll the bungee here. Let's just see if I go all the way, if this matters. All right, so I'm all the way to the right on the bungee, and it does seem that it might have helped a little bit. We'll get her trimmed up so we're not losing any altitude. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna shut this engine down the same as we did the right one. So we're gonna lose that, we've lost the engine. We're gonna feather the prop. Watch our speed. Wait for the prop to stop. The prop has stopped. Now I can tell you, this is a lot smoother. So at this point, the airplane's actually doing better with the left engine shut down than it was with the right. Because right now, it's flying pretty much hands off. I'm not having to push a whole lot on the rudder pedal. So maybe the bungee does work, it's just weird the way it works. So I want to go ahead and crank this back up, because and one thing that you noticed me do a minute ago is I pushed this button again, and the reason
downwind runway 21 Monroe.
The reason is because this feather pump feathers and unfeathers. So as soon as I push, as soon as I push, we'll let her warm up there. So she started back up. I want to go ahead and get this guy moved back to the left. Yeah, I can feel it now.
And Thomason traffic, Lockheed 5 mile final, runway 30, Thomason.
All right, so glide slope is coming in. Fuel pumps are on. Mixtures are going full. Hold 2,200 feet. Glide slope is coming in. Start pulling back on manifold. All right, so we are at Sinfo. I'm gonna put the gear down. about 19 inches. Alright, I'm going to pull it back. On at about 15 inches here. Gear is down. Fuel pumps are on. Got a good crosswind off the right.
Alright, so we are at Thomaston after shooting that approach, and now we're gonna get out here and get us some gas, and we might fly over to Griffin to see Dan Grider if he's at the airport. He's probably goofing off and not at the airport, so if that's the case, we'll head back to the house. So this is kind of funny. I was walking over here to say hello to one of my friends at Thomaston, and I was trying to text him because their hangar door's got a thing across it. I was trying to text him to see if it was okay to come in there because of all the crap that's going on, and I started getting screamed at, and I looked down and I realized this little dude right here has an egg, has his little nest over here in the tie down for the for this little 150, and he started screaming at me to let me know that I was about to step on his eggs. He's trying to lead me away. They're funny little birds. I think they're killdeers or deer kills or something like that, but he acts like he's hurt to get my attention so that I will leave his little nest alone. So you can see he's over there acting like his wings hurt, so that I'll leave his little eggs alone. So, but he picked a pretty good spot for him, I guess, if you had to stick them out here on the airport somewhere. They should be pretty safe there, especially when you back up and take a look at what they're tied down to. It doesn't look like there's any chance of anybody coming and messing with that tie down for a while, so pretty smart bird. Not much going on out here really anywhere. I flew yesterday, and the airport, everything was pretty much closed down. We flew over to Falcon Field last weekend, and they had their FBO shut, so not a whole lot that you can do other than messing around with your own stuff.
And Thomas in traffic, Lockheed, departing runway 30, Thomas.
Alright, fuel pumps are on. Trim is set. Everything is free. Mags. Fuel tanks are on main. Tail wheel to go. Tail wheel. good. Airspeed's good. Brakes, gear.
And Thompson traffic, Lockheed, starting pattern to the north. Thompson.
Arch of flaps.
And 7 Lakes traffic, Lockheed is left base, runway 36, 7 Lakes. And 7 Lakes traffic, Lockheed is final, runway 36, 7 Lakes.
What the heck happened right there?